Outside, the first thing I notice is a sucking sound that starts as a deep rumble and rises to a sustained inhalation and finally gurgles into silence. As I look around, I realize we aren't inside the fish's stomach, as I'd always assumed from the story. We're in an enormous swim bladder. I seem to remember from grade 10 biology that a fish transfers gas from its blood to its bladder to control its density. Seems this isn't your average formaldehyde-soaked perch. My eyes have adjusted now. Clouds of blotchy fungus span the long arc overhead and travel as far as I can see down the subtly swaying length of the bladder wall. Though it's the green of cheap glow-in-the-dark stickers, the wet stones on the road reflect with the luster of moonlight. Edward's house is on a side street. There's a patch of turf on the lawn, a small garden, and a gravel path leading to the road. The ground has a squidgy give that takes some getting used to. The homes are exactly as Edward described them, a hodgepodge of materials cobbled together to form extremely unlikely structures. They have a Dr. Seussian geometry that building codes in developed countries would never have the sense of humor to allow. Edward's looks like a Frankenstein love child of a country cottage in a Norwegian fishing sloop. The main street opens onto a wide central square with cobblestones and a limestone monolith that could be a fountain but is completely dry and so acts as a place marker for where a fountain would go under more typical circumstances. At the top is a stone sculpture of the fish, its great head emerging from a tempestuous sea. On the sides are beautifully carved images of the fish swallowing people and sometimes whole vessels in a single gulp, from primitive canoe-like boats and ancient slave-driven triremes to steamships and even what looks like an aircraft carrier. There are storefronts in a row along the square, a reclaimed furniture shop, a hardware store, Trufant's Bakery, and on the corner a Tudor pub, the Bogwater, with a hefty wooden sign swinging out front. A few people walk the streets, minding their own business. I can hear voices from inside the pub, but it's enough just to sit here by the fountain and take it all in, the silence punctuated by the sucking sound every few minutes, the subtle vibrations chasing themselves along the bladder wall, the intricate carvings. A cricket drones close by. I guess humans aren't the only living things that have found their way in here. I don't know why I'd think otherwise. I guess it's human nature to assume we're somehow exceptional. I wander more side streets. They all finish in dead ends. Many of the homes look abandoned, windows broken, doors hanging by their hinges like loose baby teeth. I keep walking outside the bounds of the village center. Neighborhoods give way to farmsteads and rolling pasture with a few cattle and sheep here and there. They appear oblivious to their status as fish dwellers and munch away as languidly as any cow or sheep in the outside world. When I think of my life, I feel like I've been one of them. The droves of cars streaming in and out of the city like beasts to pasture, the stampede of time pummeling me into mindless passivity, quagmires of uncertainty placated by the numbing effect of endless repetition. I try to remember the things I love about the outside world, a cold beer at the end of the day, some soothing meanderings on my ukulele, those moments when a client actually breaks through to a more positive existence, vanilla ice cream with fresh-picked berries, weekends off, sitting at the beach, hot stones against the soles of my feet, the hours of flow of possibility. Is it such a bad life? I know I have it better than many. Yet I can't ignore a lump in my gut that seems to suggest the future is a raised butcher's blade we're all being herded toward. Can I be happy munching grass? Why would I want to return to that? What could I hope to do to change any of it? Where do I fit? Where do I fit in this world, for that matter? It's hard to separate one question from the flood of others. Is the fish some kind of living fossil that's been wandering the oceans for millennia? Does it have a moral raison d'etre, as Edward suggested? Or is it just a random sampling of lucky suckers? Maybe it's a bizarre experiment, in which case we're not much more than lab rats. Seems a stretch. Which leads me to wonder how someone gets back to their life if they want to. Jonah returned after just 3 days. And then there's Edward. He's been in here ever since he lost his Lucille on the Lusitania. Does he stay because he can't bear to return to a world without her? Or is he unable to return? Does he enjoy it here? Has he forged a passable existence out of this? The path is now a soggy track. Fog wanders like shapeless gray spirits, and the ground vibrates with every step. It's a unique feeling, like walking on an enormous floating carpet. The earthy odor of peat and decay is overpowering, but soon fades. Abnormally large insects buzz everywhere. A mosquito jabs me before I can swat it, leaving a scarlet smear on my arm. The carcass twirls to my feet. I crouch down to look at some of the plants, lots of grasses, lichens, mosses, low-lying shrubs in every shade of green, some pink flowering heather buzzing with bees, which seems strange in the relative darkness. And interestingly, a clump of Venus flytraps, a good 2 feet tall, jaws wide, waiting. I drop what's left of the mosquito into one of them and watch the fanged flower clasped shut around it. The anesthetic effect of the port is wearing off, and my bruised ribs are starting to stab at my sides, but I have no intention of turning back. A shift has taken place within me since my perilous stand on the Caribbean Spirit. Possibilities that have always intrigued me, but never enough to nudge me out of passivity, suddenly taunt me. There are too many examples of this. Why did I shelve that book on music and addiction recovery? I'd already done months of research. Or why didn't I ask that new employment counselor out? She was attractive, had laughter in her eyes, kept walking by my office to ask redundant questions. But she couldn't possibly have been interested in me. Chicken shit. I'm tired of reading this sheet music for life. The bog feels primordial. Beyond the giant insects and freakish carnivorous plants, there's something elemental about the terrain, a sparseness, like a display at a natural history museum showing the first-legged fish crawling out of the muck. Every few minutes, I get a vague hint of movement out of the corner of one eye and sense the weight of feet on the ground. But when I turn, there's nothing there.